There we go.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, everyone. We're here with the Mandalorian, Brendan Wayne. Brendan, once again, thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy. You're currently running around, so I really do appreciate you making time to talk.
Life, it interrupts us, but only when we're doing things.
Right.
No, Adam, it's really cool to be on here. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Like I said, I appreciate you coming on. Obviously, the big question is going to be everything about the Mandalorian, but I'm actually kind of curious, what was, to go back, rewinding from there, what got you into show business? Was that like a passion you always had, or was it just something you kind of fell into?
I kind of feel like I was always going to go there. I just didn't know it. I didn't even start until I was 26. But I grew up around and in the business because my grandfather's John Wayne. So I'm lucky enough to kind of grow up in a very surreal perspective of things. And, I was just very lucky in that sense. And then I had a great mom who, was very clear about who he was and who I was, and how I hadn't anything I was gonna take credit for better be my own. And so I kind of grew up understanding the difference between, hey, I'm John Wayne's grandson and I'm John Wayne, and there's a big difference. And it was my job to always bring honor to the name, which I am positive I failed at large moments in my life. But I kind of grew up around the business. And I absolutely, my imagination was always something that was driving me in life. Didn't matter what to get through math, I had to use my imagination because I hated class. I hated, all that stuff. And so just trying to enjoy yourself. And then I was very sports driven, and I had been taught young. My father played D1 football, was a wrestler. My grandfather was a D1 football player at USC. My uncle played D1 football. So I was always driven sports wise. And I was always taught that's how you learn how to be on a team. That's how you learn to live in the best communities, all these things. And so I was also taught how to imagine the games before you ever played them. And it made a huge difference. And it was a huge, huge reason why I was successful. And, that all comes from, when we're kids, I'm the sheriff, there's the bad guy. I'm driving really fast, like Dukes of Hazzard in the car, or, I'm the fall guy and I'm doing stunts, those kind of things. You get all those things rolling around in your head when you're young. And the only reason they stop is because somebody tells you shouldn't do it. Well, I never stopped. And people did tell me, hey, grow up. But that was part of my, every day, my, reading and stories, and watching movies, staying out, 18 hours to be the first ones in to see Indiana Jones because we didn't have reserved seats like you do now.
Right.
E.T., I sat out 24 hours in front of the Cinerama Dome here in Hollywood.
Wow.
To make sure I got tickets. Funny enough, I think my uncle asked me. I also got tickets for Pam Dauber when Mork and Mindy was really big. So I've been around the business, and my imagination had been such a large part of my life that I think eventually when my mom was like, hey, can you finish school? You're killing me. You're the last of 8 kids, and I need you to have a future. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, no, you got to make a choice. And I think she kind of knew. I think none of us, before me had done it in my family. And I think she didn't really want us. And I thought at the time it was just, she just hated the business. It's not that she hated the business. She hated the fact that the business was here today, gone tomorrow. And when you're a parent, all you want to do is make sure your kids are safe and secure. So she sure would love to have me as a doctor or a lawyer or somebody that was kind of needed all the time. Well, that wasn't for me. I wasn't that guy. That would have required a lot more schooling than I was willing to do.
Right.
So in that, what I figured out was I wanted to go do acting. And so she said, well, if you're going to do that, you need to go study. And I was like, why? Granddaddy never studied. And she was like, you're an imbecile. Yes, he did. The studios tell stories, but the reality is they all worked at their craft. They didn't just get good. They fight standing there. And so I went and learned. I went and learned, theater school, and was very fortunate to be able to go and learn how to sing and dance and do all these crazy things that I was like, I'm not going to sing and dance. And she's like, it's going to benefit you. And she was right. And it was what an incredible experience, for me to be able to kind of learn in a way that I had no concept of what I was going to do. And I went to film school, and I met my wife at acting school, and she had submitted me for Angel. As you can see, it's really terrible, the weather here.
Yeah, for you.
It submitted me for a TV show called Angel, and I wasn't part of any union. And so, you had to be Taft-Hartley, like they had to really want you. And I went and auditioned, and it was crazy. It was Joss Whedon, and that was my first gig that paid, that was Angel. And I don't know that I got another paying job for about 4 years, like a real good paying job, but yeah, and that was it. And the rest is history. Now, I always had the bug. Last 8 kids, everybody has a role. Mine was storytelling and being crazy. I was the kind of guy who would take I took a table umbrella and decided to see if I could fly. So I jumped out the second story window and threw the table umbrella out to see how that worked. Just so you know, it's a terrible choice, and you shouldn't do it. And you better tuck when you land. That's all I know.
Yikes.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I got into that was my foray into the business.
Do you think that it helped? I mean, it's putting it very mildly, but you had a showbiz family that they understood. Oh, nice. They understood that was a path.
I don't know. I just think their fear, like my mom's fear, because it was her father, is JW, and it's like her fear would have been, as a parent now I can look back and see it even more clearly, is you're following in an icon's shadow. And I knew how famous he was, but I didn't know how famous he was, if that makes sense. Like,
well, because you knew him.
Yeah, like it was relative to me. Mm-hmm. That he was my relative. That's weird. Anyway, so it was this weird kind of thing for me. Every once in a while you get surprised, or I do, and you forget, and then you go to Ouarzazate in northern Africa to film a movie with Sam Jackson, and you see how famous they are, even in this town that half of it didn't have electricity. Yeah. And then he tells the extras, we're filming a war pic, and tells the extras that my grandfather was John Wayne, and all of a sudden they're outside my trailer door and they have pictures of my grandfather and they want me to sign them. And you go, oh my God, he's really famous. That guy's really, and I'm like, why? And I was in somebody's house every night after that. If you listen to what's right next to you, and you don't always hear what's outside of that, you'd never have the bigger picture. And so when I was out there and I got to have dinner at these people's homes, you find out, what he represents, why he is an icon and not just, another movie star. And It's because he didn't represent what I thought it was here. It was so many other things that are so much more important to the people who watch these movies, and it hasn't been reformed and retold on what these movies mean. So
It was really cool. Anyway, so yeah, did it hurt me? I doubt it's ever hurt me. Although some people might not like him and they're like, I'm not calling that guy in. But sometimes I don't think it helped me like you would hope it would. So it's just, really at the end of the day here, though, in the business, like most businesses, I think for the most part, you have to show that you can.
Yeah.
And you have to show a value. Some people get away without doing that, but it's not many. It's not the norm. The
Probably
reason why this industry is so successful is because of how much work goes in every day from the PA who's making $6 an hour, who's got to come in and make sure that I'm getting ready or I'm in my room or I'm not squirreling around in a tree somewhere. So to the DP, to the movie star, whatever that means.
Yeah. And from my understanding, what you were saying, it sounds like your mom kind of had those ideas in your head from before you even started.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was, it's, you just don't think about it when you're a kid. And now that I'm, father, and today running to school late because, my kid's not doing what she needs to do. And then you go, okay, well, how do I teach that responsibility? And my mom was real good at putting it out there. She couldn't force us to do whatever it was, but she made it very clear that responsibility was something that required work and that the reward was at the end. You didn't get it in the beginning. So you didn't, it's not like today where so many things are just given.
Yeah.
And I'm 100% one of the people perpetrating this terribleness, which is, you just can't, you have to earn it. And I was taught that by my mother, and didn't matter if it was, something I thought was going to be easy, which is just stand there and, be cool acting, or you actually learn a craft. And that's why I'm also very, clear with people when people are like, oh, you're a stuntman. I'm like, look, they put me as a stuntman, and that's on Lucasfilm and Disney, and that, I'll never agree with that. I thought that was just cowardly, considering David Prowse was a suit performer. So, like, to me, I'm an actor. I would never steal the glory of the work that's done by stuntmen, by a DP, by a director. I would never be like, oh, I direct myself. Like,
Right.
I bring stuff, but let's be real. I do my homework and I do what I'm supposed to do, but the director forms the vision of what you see. And at the end of the day, that's where all the responsibility lies, ultimately, because everybody answers to them. So, those are the things that I learned. I learned how to be a part of a team, and I learned the importance of hard work.
Yeah, it's always a hugest collaboration.
Yeah. It's not even like this show. The greatest thing about it is the crew that works it. And I've been on a lot of shows. These people love Star Wars. It is so important to them. And they love to let their geek flag fly. And it's like, it's refreshing. It allows you, it does, for me as an artist or an actor, it sure allows me to be free. It gives me the permission and the responsibility to be as creative and understand the importance of doing the work every day.
And that kind of thing, what you're describing, I think, is why the show works so well, is because it might be you in fake armor and a costume and a mask, we can't see your face, and you're talking to a puppet, but you still have to give it your all, because if you don't believe it, we don't believe it.
Absolutely. And that's my job or whatever, but that's the greatest part of it, when you have those moments where I'm not thinking about the 6 guys and girls running the RC, controllers on Grogu, and I'm just talking to Grogu. They have imparted their personalities so deeply into the reactions and everything that it's me and the kid, and we just talk, hey, Mandalorian isn't just about fighting, it's about, knowing where you are and where you need to be. And like all those cool moments, in spite of the fact that there's 150 people lighting, DP grips, set deck, all that standing there, it becomes a solitary kind of, moment that's really quiet. And it's not hard to, that's also part of what's cool is the helmet allows, you don't see all of it because the vision is so minuscule that having that kind of intimacy it becomes a little bit easier.
Yeah, that's an angle I didn't think of. I kept thinking of like how hard is it to act? Can you see your marks? All like the downsides of it. Not thinking of the positive that like it's like an isolation chamber too.
Yeah, and it's good. So like if you're pissed at the direction or you're unhappy with it took a little longer on lighting and you're sitting there in the costume and nobody's nobody cares. They just need you to be there. It's easier to be in that helmet and pissed off than it is to be sitting in your chair where everyone can see your face.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it happened, but it might have happened.
You have the option.
Yes.
Are you able to take the helmet off between takes, or is it like more stuck on? Like, is it okay?
Yeah, I generally, especially like first season, I didn't do a lot of that because I was just trying to figure out what his life was within it, and so it became, for me, it became shorthand. And it's just, like I don't even hesitate. Like I keep it on, like the 501st Troopers got to be in season 1 and take that picture with John and Carl and I, and everyone, was like, "Oh, you can take off your helmet," and I was like, "No, I can't." And it was a goose for them, like they thought it was great. They were like, "Oh my God, kept his helmet on. That was so cool." And I talk to these guys all the time. I see them all around and they're like, "Dude, that was so legend that you kept your helmet on." I'm like, it never even dawned on me to take it off, boys. It's the Mandalorian, and the Mandalorian wears his helmet. Din Djarin doesn't have to wear his helmet. Mandalorian needs to wear his helmet. So, and that's kind of how that's part of my, rules and obligations that I've written for Mando, like don't use your right hand for anything except for pulling your gun if you can help it. Like I have a whole Bible, 300-page deal, over 300 pages now.
Just your own creation.
Yeah, because I wanted to make sure that, after going into season 2, I had a little health scare. I died a little and came back, and it was something I thought, oh man, I wouldn't want someone not to be able to continue on. And so here are the ideas and the reasons why I've chosen to do certain things. Why is there a skip in the bullet in between? Like those kind of things, there's a reason behind it. And so, it became something that was real, it has a lot more meaning to me. And at the end of the day, it became like a journal of sorts, and I'd never done that before. So cool, fun stuff.
Yeah, that's very cool. Because I was wondering how it worked where you're collaborating with 3 people to make one character. And I don't know if there's more stunt people in there also. You have 3 actors who bring him to life. And I don't know if there's like, oh, we need this specific guy for, an explosion or something. So are you kind of the point man on that in a way?
I think especially season 1, it was, like Lateef and I Lateef going, hey, what are we doing here? This is super Western. This is your deal. How do we roll inside this suit? Like, what's going on? And that was season 1. I mean, like I had one day off, but when the stunts get like crazy, it's Lateef. And then if he's had, like on the movie, they beat the living tar out of him. And so some days the stunt coordinator, JJ Dashna, who was just a highly intelligent stunt coordinator, really good guy, and Matt Leonard, who's working with him, and Mandy, those 3 would be like, hey, take the day off, and either JJ would jump in the suit or like Donald Mills, who had done it somewhat in season 1. So there's some moments, and yeah, they do, like I think the director will be like, no, I need this from you. And I'll get phone calls and be like, hey, what happens? How do you, if your hand is injured, how does this occur? And what do you do? And what's the reasoning? And how do we make it seamless? And so that's the funniest thing is that at the end of the day, they would all try to, watch somebody walk because they wanted to have more of us. But I had established his movement so much that there just wasn't anybody to match it. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that like I came up with movement. It was me being slowed down by Favreau saying, hey, look, if you move too hard and fast in this thing, you're going to look like, Woody from Toy Story. And so you go, okay, this is, I don't want to be like, hey, where are you, Mr. Potato Head? And so when I slow down, all of a sudden it's and I didn't know this until I did this, really. It's like my grandfather's, saying, oh, yeah, you are part of me. And then I'm walking like him. And it's a really interesting thing to see. You go, oh, sometimes the genes it's just in the genes. And then these guys are trying to walk like it. And once you start to try, I think either you make a mockery of it and it's birdcage, or you just become so self-conscious you look like you're built on wheels and you're broken. Like, it's just crazy. So
yeah, I can see that trying to,
it's fun. I mean, I love, like, I go to these Comic-Cons and people be like, hey, how's my walk? And I'll be like, I don't know what you're doing there, but that's got to stop.
Leave it to the professionals.
I'm like, I really hate that fact that you might be telling people I walk like Brendan Wayne and that's what you do.
That book you were talking about with like the tip you said about he only uses right for the gun if he can at all help it. Can you give us a few more things like that, or is that like a private thing that you keep just in your head?
No, I write it down, so I don't keep it in my head, but
well, keep it to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I generally like it. I like to not put it out there because I want to see, you see all these people online and they're like, I know who's in the costume when, and then I go and look at it and I just start laughing.
That's
I'm like,
wrong.
hey, you are so wrong. It's not even close. Like,
okay,
you are so blatantly off. And so I keep it in, but like missing a bullet, so there's a bullet that's skipped. It's so that's an old Western thing to let you know that you're on your last bullet. So when you're putting in, single action and you're putting in your revolver, oh, I'm at my last one, or I'm going to my last two here. Yeah. I got to make these count. And so that was, without even look, you knew, oh, okay. And so we also found out that I'm really good at sleight of hand. So I'm able to put my, any coins I get, my knives, my extra guns, I'm able to put these things in a way that I can just film it and we don't have to do CGI or things like that. And that was really fun. That was a lot of fun. Cool. So
does that take a lot more practice with all the bulk on you?
Yes, but at the same time, for me, if I can imagine it, then I can do it, kind of thing.
Okay.
Like that's just the way I've always worked.
Yeah.
In my opinion, if you can see it, then you can do it. And so I imagine what it looks like when I reach back there, and then I just feel out, okay, how high is my belt? Okay. What do I have to watch out for? Are my suspenders that keep my pants up, are they going to get in the way, or can I use those as a brace? And that's usually what I do. So, it's just understanding what you're wearing. And I think we all, we wear cargo shorts. We know we have an extra set of pockets, and we put things in there. And that's just, it's just the comfort of knowing your costume.
Yeah, spending some time in it and getting to feel it. Very cool. Yeah. How did you get the call for The Mandalorian? Like, what was the, day one or day zero?
day zero was I had to go try on a costume, and I didn't know what it was. I think my agent knew, and I said no. I had to work that night, and I was trying to get my kid off to college the next week, and I didn't have any money. I mean, I'm telling you, my sister had paid for I have, three daughters, and my wife had to pay for our plane tickets to get out to Boston to take our kid to college. I was just a bartender, getting by. I wasn't doing anything fancy. I'd worked as a regular on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Sons of Anarchy, whatever, but like I wasn't working regular. So it's like, what are you going to do? You bartend. And that's what I did. I was good at it and been doing it for 22 years at that point. And so I said, no, I can't take the night off. And my agent's like, what? I'm like, I need the money. And he's like, I'm like, if they can change the time and I can go earlier, that's great. But it's a night shift. I got to make that money. He's just like, you're insane. So he calls and whatever. They moved it an hour earlier. I called work and they let me push it an hour later. So now I was like, sweet, I'm going to get paid, like $100 to go try on this costume and then go, go to work and whatever. Right. And so I think the next day I went over to this place and I'm driving up to it and I'm like, this is shady. This place is shady industrial part of town. But then I got there and they had like a camera, Ring doorbell kind of thing. And they were like, let me see your face. And I got in and then I had to sign an NDA and I'm like, whatever. And then I look and I'm looking at, Terminator 2. I'm looking at Avatar, and I mean life size, not like posters. And I'm like, where am I? This is amazing. And they walk me into this other room, and it's like a makeup room you would have in the back of a theater. And so I was like, oh, okay. It had a mirror and lights, and it's like, oh, interesting. And then they're like, in that container is your outfit. And they pop it open. I'm like, oh, it's Boba Fett. This is unreal. And they were like, it's not Boba Fett. They were so mad. It was Legacy, who are I don't know. They're the standard. Like when Stan Winston was done, it was him. It was Legacy. And they opened that thing. I'm like, Boba Fett. They're like, it's not. And I'm like, Boba Fett. They're like, it's not. I'm like, it's Boba Fett. And they're like, whatever, dude, it's not. And I'm like, I signed my NDA. Don't worry. I won't tell anyone. Whatever. Like, I was just so like nonchalant. And then you find out, it's not Boba Fett, but I didn't know. Yeah. And then I tried it on and, it was long, but it was pretty well fit for me. And I thought that was shocking because they were like, the guy before you that they were going to use is 6'5". And if you're looking for who it is, you can see him on Instagram. He's stunt Batman. He was Ben Affleck's stuntman for Batman. He's does everything in that suit. That was badass. That's him. And they wanted an actor who could play it. And that's where I came in. They wanted a guy who could be in the suit, 10 hours a day, doing the acting so that, I know Pedro was doing a play at that moment in New York. So it made it easier for everybody. That was going to be able to be done because they couldn't use a stuntman because they didn't study the craft of acting. They just, are really good at, expressing their emotions through actions, which is funny enough, which is literally the way I look at Mando. But anyway, yeah. So I did that, and I learned Kabuki to do that, but that's further down the road. I did it. I tried it on. They took pictures. It was really cool. I put on the helmet. It fit perfectly. They were like, everybody kept looking at each other. And I was like, I hope that's a good thing. And they were like, man, you're him. And I was like, yeah, Boba. Because that would have been a dream. Boba Fett?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now I honestly realize what a terrible dream that would have been. Because my Boba Fett is very different than your Boba Fett, very different than my brother's. And to have to reenact that the way, like, Tim was so good. He was great at it. But
Yeah.
to have to be the guy who brought that, I had, 40 years of imagining who Boba was and how he, like his whole life. To have to bring that, that's a challenge. Anyways, so I go and I'm getting ready to take my kid to college, I think the next week. And they're like, hey, you got a screen test. My agent calls me. He's like, you got a screen test on Friday. And I'm like, nope, I don't. And he's like, what? It's for this untitled Star Wars project that you just did. And I'm like, no, my kid's going to college. And he's like, no, dude, move the day. I'm like, nope, not moving it. I'm not moving it. She's got to be there that day. And that's what we have planned. And I have non-refundables, and so be it. And he's like, he's like, I'm going to fire you. So he reaches out and, they're like, what? We'll buy it so he can fly back early. And I was like, nope. This is unlike anything else in life. There are very few one times. You can get remarried, you can have more kids, but what you can't do is go to college for the first time and be my oldest daughter and me being able to walk through that, dorm and eyeball every single human being that's there and be like, I'm hers. So if I have to come back out again, let's be clear, this is not going to be good what happens.
Yeah.
And that was my thought process. And we were fighting, they were fighting me up until like 3 days before, because everybody's schedule was unavailable to move around. And they did. They were able to do it. And I think getting the costume close enough where I could fit perfectly into it, things like that had to be just sped up. And so they were like, yeah, okay, fine, we got it. We'll do it on Wednesday. You leave on Friday, so it's great. I was like, great, sounds good to me. Ended up being, I think, Thursday or something. And they're like, I know that they're like, who does this guy think he is?
Yeah.
But I'm so, like, my family's first always, and it doesn't even dawn on me that it's weird what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I don't even think twice. I'm like, yeah, so that's what I was supposed to do. When I decided that I was being a dad, that was what I had to do. And so, I go in for this thing, and, this is Star Wars. It's not like I'm going in for a guest role on The Mentalist, or, you're going to get a recurring on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and it's, you're going to be the bodyguard. Like, this is a whole different deal. And I have no idea what possessed me to be so confident. I don't even mean just like, hey, I'm going to take my kid to school, as opposed to, yes, whatever you want, sir. But when I walked in that room in that costume, and they were bringing me the rifle and everything, and they're like, how do you like the costume? And instead of being like, I love it, I was very honest, and I was like, you got to drop 6 inches off this rifle. It's going to catch in my boot. I need a strap on it so that it'll connect here so I can pull it off with one hand, because we want this to look really cool. And they're literally start taking notes. And it's like, Favreau and Josh, the prop master, and Dave Filoni. And I have no idea why I think my ship is on the same tide level as theirs, but it was, and thankfully I did approach it that way, and it was a great learning experience in the sense that anytime you walk in a room, it's not their room or your room, it's our room, and you got to remember that. And it's just a funny thing that I learned at 45 years old. And so I go 46. I don't know how old I was older. Anyways, so and we're walking. I'm like, hey, this gun holster has to be down about 4 inches. And they're like, well, then it looks, and I'm like, okay, here's the deal. I'm really good with my gun, and it's not even close. You're not going to find somebody faster on this draw than me in this outfit, except we have to do a couple things. It's got to drop down, and then we also have to get a strap. And he's like, we're not doing a strap. We talked about it. It's too Western. We want them to feel Western, but not be Western. And I was like, okay. Then cut a hole open in the leg and put it inside around my leg. Because if you don't, the flap, when I pull this gun, the the flap is going to come up as I pull. And so I'll never be able to draw clean. And then they were like, oh, I could, and Legacy's incredible. They're like, dude, we got this. Anything I would suggest, they'd try. And if it was, good, they kept it. They were so good. And that's what they did. They popped it in, drew it down, and then I go and do the bar scene where the guys come up to fight me, and I'm talking to the bartender, and I do the scene where I'm picking up the bounty puck from Grief at the table. God rest his soul. My buddy, always. Carl Weathers.
Yeah.
He's always here with me. What a cool thing. And I'm sitting in the volume. It's not completely done yet. And they're explaining it to me. And I'm like, yeah. Anyways, can we just get through this? I got to pack. And, the rest, I took off and I went to Boston, and I got a phone call while I was there. The stress of being a parent and, making sure your kid's got, everything you need and is all those things. And then all of a sudden I didn't have job security because the deal for the first 2 seasons in Boba was that I signed a contract every day. So they could have fired me the night before, anytime. Like I had even after season 1, they were like, we're not going to guarantee you anything.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's the business though,
Yeah.
It used to piss me off, but whatever. I have no control over that. I could have said no and not done it, and fine, but I wanted to do it, so I did. I took it as a challenge, and eventually they get around to doing the right thing. Usually people do, and whether they did have or haven't isn't for me to talk about. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I will say simply that I love playing Mando, and I love the people I get to create it with, and for that, I'll always be grateful, and I'll never look that gift horse in the mouth. It was an incredible feeling to know that I got this job, and I had no concept of what it was going to be, Mando, any of it. It was just nice to know that I had a job of some sort, that I was going to be able to support my kid in college.
That's very cool. Yeah, I love how much you got to establish in the character, off the bat. Like right from the fitting, you were changing things and making it what it is.
I was like, drop that bullet out. We can't have that bullet there. They're like, why? I'm like, this is why. They're like, oh. I'm like, when we begin the season, John and I had spoken. He had me watching Westworld, and the robotic nature of Yul Brynner in that is incredible in the movie. And so I was super, super in tune to that. And then wanting to tell the, story of Mando, and understanding that it was going to be subtle, and it was going to have to radiate out of the costume more than be a facial thing or, a lot of hand gestures or whatever it is. He had to be really simple and clear. So I studied the kabuki, but I also, which is a Japanese style, an art form of telling stories with a mask on. So you have to express all these things by radiating. And so to have the freedom, we started rehearsals. I was working with Deb Chow and Rick and Bryce and Gina Carano, and rehearsing scenes a month and a half before we even started photography. And so just trying to work things out and being on the ground floor of that, instead of being told, hey, you got to do this or you got to do that. It was, I was writing the story physically, and that was a really cool thing that I got to do.
Yeah, for sure. I was really curious how much you got to establish, since you're kind of sharing the character, and it's I love hearing how much you got to do it. It makes it more complete as a fan, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, I think it's fascinating on the outside of it, just because what an interesting, dynamic to have these 3 things. And then you think, if Pedro's not in the suit and then he has to voice over, whatever I'm doing, or even Latif, what a dynamic art form that is in itself. Like,
Yeah.
I've had to do voiceovers on video games. I've had to do voiceovers over my own work. But to do voiceover and make it real on somebody else's, I mean, obviously we had it with James Earl Jones, and he was incredible. I mean, I didn't know this. I just learned this, that he didn't have his name in the credits because he wanted it to be, you know, like, because he knew that David was in the suit as much as he was. And I was like, I just found that out. I was blown away. I was one of the Lucasfilm people told me that. I was like, what? That's crazy. So I don't know if it was just initially or later on, but like, I was like, that's mind blowing. So there's a history of it with Star Wars, and it's such a cool history.
Yeah, with the masked character, right?
Yeah.
So for the voice performance, obviously you're doing the entire performance when you're in the suit.
Yeah, because I mean, if I'm working with, you know, like Jake Cannavale, and he's playing Toro Calican, and he's running lines, I can't just mime it. It's gonna look stupid. I'm gonna look like a mime, and I'm gonna want to kick my own butt. So,
is that another collaboration thing between at least the three core people who bring Din Djarin to life on the delivery, the cadence?
No, I think that's. I mean, the cadence and everything that goes to John. I'm gonna deliver the lines the way I do when I'm acting, and you know, whatever that is whatever the moment asks for. You know, so if it's, you know, wherever I go, he goes. That's how I deliver it. Or if I say, you know, this is the way. That's just the way I say it. And so he, whether they voice match it or, you know, modulate, that's all in the room ADR stuff that John will be there for it, or Dave, or whoever's directing that episode. But it's very specific. It's a very Western style that vocally has been chosen. And so for me, that's obvious. Mm-hmm. Like that's, you think of Clint, you think of my grandfather, you think of, you know, all those guys in those moments, you know, Robert Duvall, Kevin Costner, you know, these Western greats. And you're just like, oh, and you even think about like Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday. He's not a 100-mile-a-minute talker.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I beg to differ. Mm-hmm. I feel we never finished what we started. You know, like that's where we're at, you know. When you look at like Sam Elliott, he may put some force into it, but it's never hurried. He's like, don't lift that rifle. It's not like, don't lift that rifle. It's like there's, you know, and so it's I think there's a universal idea behind it on a lot of levels.
Now that you're explaining it, it does really speak to that genre that it is, and you always feel like the hero of a Western, like their heart rate never goes above 70. Like they're always just right there. Yeah,
and that's because they've been in it, and I think that's 100% a Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. Like we don't freak out. I don't run into a room and get hit on the back of the head. Like that was a big deal for me. I would never let them, you know, they were big on, well, he can't be like an FBI guy or a special operations guy going in every room. I said, yeah, but he also can't be stupid. So if I'm coming in a room, I don't want to overall, if I can help it, I don't want to walk directly through the center of the door. I want to be angled. Every time I got in a fight in season 1, I would angle. Because if you're a gun shooter, if I'm like this, you have my whole target. Mm-hmm. If I'm like this, I'm a lot harder to hit. And if you've ever fired a weapon or anything, thrown a knife, anything, thrown something at somebody. Bigger, man, you got a lot to hit. Smaller, really hard to capture. And so just, you know, one little shake and your blaster's gone somewhere. So those are all things that, I mean, are part of my Bible. Like, how do you go in a room without looking like a special operations guy, but at the same time? And I just did a podcast for somebody, and I'd forgotten really, but it was one of the things that I've kept, and I was very proud of. And somebody had written an article about how the Mandalorian wasn't a stupid hero.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't walk in and get, jumped. Like, he was always prepared for whatever the fight was. And if he got beat, it was because he got beat, not because he was dumb.
Yeah. Those.
Although they do make me do some stupid things, and it drives me crazy. If you ever wonder, I'll tell you right now. Sometimes hold my beer, I'll be right back. It blows my mind. I'm like, and I say it, and it drives them crazy. They're like, "What problem do you have with it now, Brendan?" And I'm like, "I'm just trying to get the best, character out of this whole thing." So
yeah, especially given the isolated nature of where the Mandalorians as a whole are, where he's very much just a lone hunter. So he would have to be highly intelligent, or he's dead in a minute. Yeah, and if he's legendary, it's not like he's Inspector Clouseau legendary. He's he's supposed to be a legendary bounty hunter. So you don't want to play the guy dumb. You just. I don't know. Like, he's so legend, but he leaves. I have a problem so many times, with if I have these whistling birds, why aren't I using them? Where, what are these things on my legs? Is this a jet? Is this, why am I not using these things in my dire times? Right. And it drives them crazy. So now when they write things and they try to be like, yes, this is my man cave, by the way. There's my boxing bag. I have another bag down there, a sauna. I had to rebuild it after the rain hit. But when they're writing it now, they have to take into account that I'm annoying. I think that's the words they used. It's not how I feel about myself. I like myself. But that I'm going to be like, why are we making him stupid? Why is he doing this stupid thing? And so, I honestly had to stop doing it somewhat because I knew it was annoying them. But it matters to me. Like, I'd be like, why am I doing this? Why does it matter? I know we're trying to do some movie thing here, but can't we be smarter? It has to. One, it has to matter to you because you're putting so much of yourself into it and spending so much time, and you're one with the character, obviously. But it also matters as the people watching it because, like you said, with the whistling birds, if he could just use it at every room he goes into, he's never in danger. So we need a reason why he can't do that.
Why is it not working? If weapons are part of my religion, then why am I leaving some on the table when I don't need to? Yeah. What a cool line, by the way. Yeah, right?
I'm guessing, I feel like I already know the answer, but I'm guessing the scripts are like, this is the dialogue verbatim, don't go off book, or do you get to play a little bit?
Here's what I'll tell you. With the ADR and things like that, it's about, you just got to fill a certain amount of time, right? So I almost never refer to Grogu as Grogu, and the script has his name constantly. And I have a reason why. It's kind of like, to me, Grogu is his middle name, and Kid is his first, because in Westerns, the kid, those kind of things, that's the lingo. And so I always call him Kid, even in the scenes. Mm-hmm. And so when I say Grogu, like I did in Ahsoka, not Ahsoka, in Jedi episode of Mando where Ahsoka comes, I didn't want to cheapen it. And so it was always going to be at a certain moment. Like, normally when your middle name is spoken, at least at my house, you were in deep shit. So, that was not the case here. But, I'd be like, Grogu, stop. And, he's trying to eat somebody's food or something. Mm-hmm. But most of the time it's a kid. And it's a term of endearment, and it also reminds them that you have a lot to learn. and that's kind of the way I go with it. But like, as far as knowing every single line verbatim, yes, that's my job. I don't always like them, so I don't always say them that way, because at the end of the day, as long as I'm getting the point across with enough time for him to do the whatever verbatim, he can do that. But what I do know is that some of the ones that I've given, they use. So it's pretty fun.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah. I always like hearing when an actor has a little bit more agency and it's not just like, read the lines we gave you and, you know, dance.
Yeah, and I think with this with Mando, you know, he's the lead, so usually those are the characters that have the freedom to kind of mix it up, and that's absolutely the way I looked at it. Was, oh, I'm not gonna just, oh, you guys, your scribes, you as scribes are so good. This isn't theater. Mind you, in theater, you have to do exactly what the playwright does, or they can fire you. So it's pretty funny. But yeah, I don't take a lot of license. You know, with Mando, he doesn't say a lot.
Yeah, that's
verbally, true. And so, you know, we have some exposition like, here, let me teach you how to, you know, navigate, and you know, there's, you know, Corsican, and then there's Mandalore, and there's, you know, all these different introductions, but that's what we're doing. That's exposition. And that's, you know, that and $5 to get you a cup of coffee. I just find it to be boring. I think if you can't do it within the scheme of it, you're just kind of you're taking a cheap way out. So, yeah, I mean, I love it. I love it. That's what it's so cool to know that you have to, you're telling a story that people, it matters to them that you're in the canon and you're doing it right. And it's fascinating to understand that there's so many, you know, bigger things. I'm just a cog in the Star Wars universe, because New Hope was what started it.
Yeah.
And what Mr. Lucas and now Dave Filoni have always done is tell incredibly great, mythologically based stories that we can all learn things from. And so to be a part of that stuff is really cool. So I don't mind the verbiage. It's its own kind of Shakespeare most of the time.
Yeah, some of it is necessary for establishing it in the wider universe that it's almost infinite with all the extra content out there.
So much.
Do you feel like a weird level or obligation to the responsibility of that, even if it's not directly in what you're acting at that moment?
Well, I mean, I always, first of all, obligation becomes such a bad word, but in a great way, yeah. I feel.
Yeah, I didn't mean it as a negative, more like a responsibility.
No, I'm just saying so that like nobody ever misinterprets that I say, you know, obligation, yes. I sign a contract, I'm there. But I don't do the bare minimum. I mean, I get there we have a 6 o'clock call. I get there at 4 a.m. I work out. I build my own gym. Nobody comes in and does it, just like this one. I build it. Some of this wood is from the most recent set, actually, part of my gym. But I build my own gym. I work out because you got to be physically capable inside that suit. And then I walk my set for an hour, and I do the lines as I'm walking, so I know what to expect. And then I put the helmet on for another 20 minutes and walk it, so I know what to expect. So by the time we ever get to shoot, I've been on there longer than anybody other than the grips and set deck. And so I don't trip and stumble and fall all over the place. That said, since I said, yes, this is the job I'm going to do, and I woke up and I did it that day, I feel an obligation. I feel honored that I have the privilege to have a job, to be in working as an actor for so many years I didn't. So there's an obligation there to uphold I have an obligation to the people who allowed me to have this job. And this is the most important one, which is my, 8-year-old self watching New Hope. I have an obligation to that kid to give everything I can to tell this story the best way possible, to trust in the people around me so that we can honor what allowed us to get here. Like, I'm getting to do my dream job. I walk on adult-sized sets that are in my imagination, that Boba and Admiral Akbar and all my action figures, and I'm walking on adult-sized sets and jumping in my own ship and deciding which buttons I'm going to push to start this ship and creating part of canon. Like, that's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
So to keep my feet on the ground, I focus on the daily, and I focus on, the smallest thing I can, and that way you never get lost in it, the way you could, I guess. But I've always been honest to myself, knowing that tomorrow they'll replace you. They don't care. It's a business to them. For you, it's much different. It's much more important, and that's okay. It's okay. Like, that's, as long as you know that's where you're at, then you have a really good chance to succeed. But if you ever start thinking you're owed things and you fans owe me something, you out of your mind. I owe you, like, I literally owe you everything. Because if you didn't care, if you didn't have this channel, if these guys aren't watching or listening, I don't get to play Mando, which is one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had. And I've like, probably the only thing that I find more rewarding is coaching young kids, and that's probably the only thing that I can, because it's not about me. Rewarding for me, other than being a dad, playing Mando is pretty fun, but being part of something that's rewarding for kids, coaching, that's probably the ultimate for me, is the community that I'm part of. So I digress. Yes, I don't.
No, that's amazing.
I feel honored to play Mando, and the honor has to be matched by my effort, because the effort and my the seriousness in which I approach it is what allows the audience to let go and be a part of Mando.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my favorite. That's my favorite thing about Mando, is that I get told these stories. I have this beautiful woodworking, right?
Yeah.
And on the back, on May 16th last year, I got this, and it says, "Thank you for what you did for a boy you don't know. A grateful dad." And then it says in quotes, "Tatum's dad." Okay? This kid was getting picked on. And he's a big kid, like he's one of those kids that you always put a catcher. Clearly a strong kid, and some kids at school had decided that they were going to kind of go at the bigger kid. He's super gentle and sweet, and he wasn't standing up for himself. And his dad kept trying to push him to do it. And it's going to get me emotional. And he was like, no, it's not right, Dad. I'm not going to, beat up these kids. I'm bigger than them. And then Mandalorian came out, and they're sitting there watching it. And teacher called and said, "Hey, Tatum stood up for himself today, and you should be really proud of him." And his dad didn't want to say anything, and apparently he did it again. And nothing like, I'm not saying go out and become a bully. He didn't do anything bad. He was very good. He stood up for himself. Right before he just let it happen. And his dad asked him finally, he was like, "Hey, Tatum, I told you to do it. I taught you to throw punches, things like that. Like, what's the deal? What made you do it?" And he goes, "Mandalorian, Dad. He wouldn't let anybody bully the kid. So I realized that I got to stand up to these bullies." And this dad's got tears in his eyes, and I'm like, I get to be part of this. Look, when this, it's, I played a a drug dealer biker on Sons of Anarchy. Nobody's walking up to me and being going, I had the best heroin of my life because I watched you. I hope they're not. Don't come up and tell me that. Oh, but when somebody goes, and especially I'm a parent, so I know how tough it is. We want the best for our kids, and it's such a scary world that we try to help them, grow strong enough to live in, and to be a part of something cool like that, and then something not as heart wrenching. I had a fan who's a young lady who was I think 6, and it didn't even dawn on me until then. And I was like, of course, yeah, I'm in a helmet. What does it matter? Boy, girl, doesn't matter. Mando is identifiable to anybody because he's also not identifiable. And so what a cool thing that the kids, they never were limited like I was in that moment. That's the great thing about their imagination, and being, harkening back to the beginning of the conversation, the imagination is what keeps us all going. I imagine what I can be. I imagine how great this world could be. I imagine how effective I can be in death, how effective I can be in this world, and what a positive kind of outcome I can have out of it. Come here. My dog's trying to walk in. Yeah, one of my 5
outside the door.
That's hilarious. Here, buddy.
There's the culprit. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. We froze. I moved, and my thing didn't like me.
Yeah, blacked out for a second.
Good girl. Yeah. So, thinking about I don't know. It's easy to not get arrogant about this when you realize that it's not about me. You talk about 3 people in the suit, there's plenty more, quite often.
That makes sense.
But it's not that. It's the idea that this is about us as fans, and I'm telling you right now, Filoni, Fav, that's a big deal for them, and they talk about it all the time. And I don't know any other shows that it matters, that it's even in the conversation, even in Marvel. I don't think they're thinking about it that way, but with Star Wars, probably Star Trek, they do. That's the great thing about being Star Wars. You're part of something, and I didn't have to struggle through the build of it. I got to be a recipient of it.
At the same time, you are building something, though, because not only is it a new character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And not to minimize any of that.
Not at all. Yeah.
I don't think I didn't do anything, but I sure had a wonderful foundation and safety net that I was part of. Now, that said, the viciousness of some Star Wars fans can be, oh my God.
Yes.
And that's a great thing about The Mandalorian, in particular to me, is that, you think about, we went from Jar Jar Binks to Ahmed Best being one of the baddest Jedis on Earth. And to have him be able to, he's incredible. And then for it to be become really clear and obvious, and that the overreaction and what I thought was just unfair, all of it, that poor kid who got picked on, all those things, oof. So there's a dark side. They can stay on the Empire, but I choose to focus on the positive and the greatness of it all.
Absolutely. Yeah, the franchise has done so much for so many people, beyond entertainment, the stories you were just telling. It's exactly why.
Well, how about this? There's very few fan groups that I know of that are as active and giving as the Star Wars fan groups. And you think about the 501st, the Mandalorian mercs, they don't get paid stag rate to go stand in the costume and make kids smile.
Yeah.
Who are dying, who just don't have anything. These guys are out there giving their all just so, somebody can smile, and they get something out of it, I'm sure. And I don't mean financially, but I mean, like, obviously they have a wonderful soul, and, it feeds it. And that's, that's this fandom, right? The 501st is this fandom. I'm a proud member of the Mando Mercs.
Oh, that's cool.
I have a lot of other, I have so many 501st honorary, like, different ones, the Defenders detachment. And, when I started doing signings at Comic Cons, like, I was after a year or two of doing Mando. And that was when I started really learning how far this went. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. This is really cool. Cause I was like, I don't want, like, who wants my autograph? That's weird. Like, I'm nobody. And then you meet people and you go, no, I get it. It means something. Like, yeah. I hate the idea that I could have had a big head from it. So I was like, ew, that's weird. But then you go and meet these people and you go, no, man, that is really cool. And I'm very fortunate because I enjoy people and I love to hear their stories. And, it's really cool to interact in that sense.
Yeah. I do love that you're going to Comic Cons and you're getting to put your face out there so we can see you outside of the costume so people can associate who's bringing this guy to life. And
yeah, it's been really cool, that aspect of it. You go and you see like the Chris Evans, or you see the, like Rosario or, and you see their lines and you're like, holy cow, that's another level. I'm not getting the Pedro lines, and part of me is like, as a business, you go, oh, how do I build to that? What do I need to do? But as a human and a father and somebody who likes his anonymity on a lot of levels, I don't mind not being as busy. I can spend more time with the fans. Like,
yeah.
The one thing that I have heard and I take pride in is that I don't hurry people at the tables. If you're going to come be in my line, you want my autograph, I'm going to give you stories. I'll show you pictures from set, all those kind of things. I'm going to give you what others don't have the time to. Chris Evans, he's got, 3 hours to sign 500 things. I might sign 100 things the whole weekend. I don't know. Could be 200. And maybe after the movie it grows and it's harder, but I'm always going to try to give the most I can because everything is possible because of the fans.
And being on the other side of that, we do appreciate that. I mean, we understand if somebody has that kind of obligation with the time, when your line gets that long, I understand, but we do appreciate any effort that, you're putting in to talk to us for the 5 extra minutes.
Yeah, and kids always get it for me. Like, if I see a kid, and it's so funny because sometimes I just assume it's the kid, and then it's just the dad. The kid's like, I've never watched your show. Right. I watch Yu-Gi-Oh! Or K-pop Demon Hunters. I'm like, my bad.
Yeah. A lot of that in the Star Wars fandom, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's funny. Now I know. Now I've been around. I'm seasoned veteran now. So
right.
We'll see.
How was your celebration experience? That was cool that you got to come out and.
Yeah. And like for me, Star Wars Autograph Universe reached out to me, and they were the first ones. They were like, "Hey, would you do a signing?" I was like, "How'd you guys know?" It was just a private signing, not a Comic-Con. And I was like, "How did you know that?" Like, it was me. And they're like, "No, this is fans. We know. And it'd be a big deal. And we'd love to host your signing." And I was like, "Okay, but I'll only do it if you include Lateef." And they're like, "The stuntman?" I'm like, "Yeah. Well, we did something together, and he's like family to me now. So yeah, I need him a part of it." And they were so great about it. And so, like, that's the other thing for me is that we're able to. I really want more people to understand that the Star Wars we love, the movies we love, are brought to us by more than the stars. Mm-hmm. We make the stars look good. Like Lateef makes the stars look good. JJ makes the star look good. I think Keanu Reeves is well known for his constant adoration of those who helped build around him. And I think my grandfather was the same exact way. And he easily could have gotten big headed, but he didn't. He stayed grounded, So I figure if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. So that's what I'm going to do. And those are the things, like, to me, it's like, what a just a cool thing. And to be able to do it with my brother Latif is even more incredible, because we wouldn't have it without the two of us. That's us daily. And then we have Rada, we have Embo, right? Rada, Embo. What's another character? I feel like there's another character that people were excited about.
For the movie, or just
for the movie?
Embo's been the big one from what I'm seeing online.
Embo is my buddy, and he's a stuntman. He's worn the Mando costume a couple times. Donald Mills, and he's incredible. And we had a lot of stuff that we worked together. I guess I shouldn't say that, but like, that's really cool. And then to see Zeb is who I was thinking of.
Okay, right, yeah.
Zeb, who the guy who physically played him, they'll CGI and do all that stuff to it, same as Embo. But the guy who physically played Embo is Donald Mills, and the guy who physically played Zeb is Matt Leonard. His father is Terry Leonard, who is a legend, who did the Indiana Jones, where he goes under the car, comes back around, just like in Stagecoach that Yakima Canutt did. That's his father. And so there's these legacies that are coming down. And, Matt is a former Stanford football player, played at Jacksonville, and is an incredibly accomplished stuntman and stunt coordinator, works on The Boys and V and all that stuff. He's incredible. And so they brought those two characters, and then the guy who was originally going to be in the Mando suit, the stuntman, Rich Citron, who is on Instagram, everybody, and he is the stunt Batman. I love this man. He is incredible. He was the physical interpretation of Rada the Hutt, right? And so to know I'm with all these incredible, like, these stuntmen are, I mean, now that we have an Academy Award, you'll be able to know more stuntmen, because they do, because, I mean, it's long overdue. So many things that we loved were brought by these kind of guys. And without them, we just have CGI, and it has no soul to it. These 2-3 guys brought an incredible soul to their characters, and I loved watching it. So, yeah. Not mind you, like, also the voices are great. I think Jeremy Allen White, and I can't remember who else. But, okay, and awesome. But, like, these guys were there with me every day. And when we have what you see, this incredible adventure that you're about to go on May 22nd with the Mandalorian and Grogu, it's because we were there together with each other. And one day I'll show the video of we put plastic screws in a chair, so that when Matt Leonard, who is a defensive lineman size human being, when he sat down in it, it collapsed on him. Like, you'll understand what you're seeing on the screen, why you see all this love and like stuff. It's because it was there in the background. We got our Trojan is going to be in this movie, Matt Willig. So I'm super stoked, super stoked.
Yeah, it's going to be massive.
Yeah,
I mean, the characters beloved. Like, the show is a crossover hit where even like non-Star Wars fans are into the Mandalorian.
So cool.
Yeah.
When I heard, like, like, my grandpa would never watch shows with me, blah, blah, blah. But I told him this is like a Western. And he saw the way you walked, and he went, that character walks like John Wayne. And then I was able to say to my grandpa, that's John Wayne's grandson. He has now watched every episode with me. Like, the fact that I've been able to be a part of something that crossed generations, was transcendent, again, very Star Wars like and very cool.
Yeah. It's that modern mythology, what you were saying before, where you have to use the archetypes and stuff because it's almost like a shortcut, but that's what Star Wars is doing.
And he talks about it, like George talked about it.
Yeah.
The Western was our mythology. Joseph Campbell talks about it. We both studied it. Him earlier than me, obviously. But like that was all part Man of a Thousand Faces. Like, you want to be successful, you want to be better. Watch Star Wars. I know that sounds very like self-promoting. And then go read the Stoics, go read philosophy, go read those things, because that's what deep thinking is what's going to make you successful. Not watching somebody tell you what to think. And that's what Star Wars constantly is reminding us. And it's so cool.
And it goes so much deeper than like the surface level entertainment value, which is great, but it goes
great.
so
And
deep.
You can have that. You really can. And funny thing is, as a dad, I love it because you could bring your kid to watch it and the seed is being planted and it's growing and they have no clue. And you didn't sit there and tell them, these are values, be good, and this is why, or you'll get spanked. Like,
yeah,
it's so much easier when the community helps you.
They can have fun doing it and know what it is to be a good person, to live like a Mandalorian with a code or a Jedi or something, but they don't have
to.
Like you said, it's not a lecture, it's entertainment.
Exactly.
Yeah, very cool. I thank you so much for taking the time. I kept you over an hour. I really appreciate it.
I was late, so I deserve it anyway.
No, not at all. Not at all. It was fascinating. I mean, I had a list of questions in case I didn't know what to say next, and you just did the whole thing, made my job real easy. But no, that's perfect. No one's here to see me. They're tuning in to see you. So,
well, have no fear. If you want to do it again, just hit me up.
I definitely will be taking you up on that down the line. We'll let the movie settle and see how it comes out and see what's for the future.
Yeah, we get our reactions to it.
Absolutely. I hope you get to go to the premiere.
Cool. Yeah, I better be.
That's what I'm thinking. I'll start a letter writing campaign if not.
Let's do it. Just make sure, like they're always like, oh yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like the day of and they're like, oh, you can come over now. And you're like, bro, come on. I'm cleaning up dog feces. I gotta I'm not sitting waiting for y'all. But yeah, I love it. I'm sure they'll do right by me.
Yeah, I think so. And thank you again for coming on, and thank you for everything you do with the character, because the show does mean a lot to so many of us.
Hey, I appreciate it. I'm very lucky. So thanks for watching.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
Thanks,
Take care.
Adam.